All right, welcome Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, and President Trump is celebrating a major win for the Supreme Court's conservative wing. Justice Samuel Alito will be, he did confirm that he will remain on the bench for another term, with Trump calling him one of the greatest of all time. Great job, NPR. Way to get that one wrong, if you remember that reporting. Plus, Europe's migration crisis is producing some pretty disturbing consequences. I wish we would have been able to, we did tell them that, but at least at this point, 5 underage girls in Spain have reportedly been raped following that mass migration invasion. Be sure to keep advocating for open borders, Europe, and taxpayers. This one's for you and me. Dr. Mehmet Oz says Medicaid will no longer cover hormones or sex change surgeries for minors, calling the procedures experimental, life-altering, and lacking reliable evidence of clinical benefit. You know, following the science. Chalk another one up for the good guys here. But first, I wish I got to say this under better circumstances, but we told you so. But unfortunately, we saw it, we told you we saw it, and if they had listened, lives could have been saved. Let's do this. Boy, this one is blowing up today, and it probably should. It's about time. The Fauci text of him saying one thing privately and then telling us something entirely different that took human lives. We had the senator on who was talking about this, who exposed these text messages yesterday. But this should warrant something like the Nuremberg trials or something. These are human rights violations. Goes way beyond even informed consent. This is why Fauci went on and tried to get himself pardoned, by the way, because he knew that this was likely going to come out. I don't know what this pardon, if we can get rid of it or nullify it because it was auto pen or whatever, but his pension should be stripped immediately. Congress can do that. We tried to warn you about this vaccine, but we were shouted down as anti-science. We were censored and deplatformed when we did. Well, they just lied through their teeth about it.
I want to point out that since the EUA and under the EUA, approximately 20,000 pregnant women have been vaccinated with no red flags, as we say.
No, that was a complete lie. In fact, EV Magazine did a piece on this 5 years ago that, in fact, 8 in 10 women had a miscarriage after getting the vaccine in the first or even second trimester. It was based on a New England Journal of Medicine study with actual data, as you can see right there. And instead of actually being like, whoa, guys, like we should look at this as the science community, they're like, no, we got to bury this. And when this woman from EV Magazine tried to get a single OBGYN to go on the record and talk about it, they all said, no, we're not going to do that. They were happy to say it off the record, but wouldn't put their name to it because they feared losing their license. I mean, so much for do no harm. That's cowardice. Every single one of those doctors actually should lose their license for not speaking out. Every doctor that knew about this and still pushed this, all of them, gone. I don't care. They violated the fundamental principle. Forget violating trust. They violated the fundamental principle of medicine for self-gain, which is it got people killed babies, but cost many who did speak out their careers. They were the ones who actually were trying to do no harm. Robert Malone, my next guest, literally invented the mRNA technology, and he was shunned for saying, hey, guys, this is not what this should be used for, and there could be some risks associated with this. And for what? Like, why do these practices do this? For a bonus? Oh, yeah, let's just take a walk down memory lane on this one when we found out that physicians were actually getting bonuses for vaccinating their patients. Turns out the science sounds a lot like what people funding it wanted. And remember when the media said, no, this is totally exaggerated, like the AP said this. It's not happening. They just said it's exaggerated. Oh, you mean like you guys did with the effectiveness of the vaccine in the first place? Wasn't exaggerated enough for Texas AG to open a full-blown investigation on this, which is still ongoing. Like, my wife was pregnant during this time, and her doctors pushed the vaccine on her. Thankfully, she said no because it was later in the pandemic. But her doctor refused to give her any type of scientific reasoning other than, oh, you should do it. It's the right thing to do. Based on what? Some practices and even municipalities put out ads like this. Look at this. The best shot for the healthy pregnancy. Telling this it was safe and recommended for your pregnancy. Look at the date on this. November 9th, 2021. Remember that date. When did Fauci know about miscarriage risk? This theoretically could be associated with the miscarriage in the first trimester. And the date on that, 10 months before that social media ad from the government went out. And they still said it was safe and effective. Jail, all these people, bury them. I don't even care. I had to watch doctors, literally get rid of their patients. I had to switch doctors because they said they would refuse to be my doctor if I didn't get vaccinated. I remember they just came into the room like it was just a given that I was going to get this. They had it on the cart. They were ready to go with a nurse and all the sterile. If I hadn't asked what the hell they were doing, they would have just given it to me. And when I said hey, no, guys, they acted like there was something wrong with me. I was like, no, I thought I was going to have to fight my way out of that room. They had so many nurses in there. Any of us who refused to get it, we were forced to eat outside on sidewalks. And we were kept, some of us, out of family events. The loved ones died alone or at best over FaceTime because of the advice from people who not only were wrong, but they knew they were wrong and they knew what they were doing and ignored serious medical concerns and yet still told us it was safe and effective. These text messages now being released between the head of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, who, by the way, doesn't have a pardon, Anthony Fauci, and the incoming Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, these are people that are supposed to be the experts. They're supposed to be looking out for actual public health. And they were lying to us all along. We were right. They were wrong. This is why when the hantavirus came out, a couple months ago, a bunch of us were like, yeah, no thanks. And miraculously, it just vanished because we weren't buying it. They were wrong again because it didn't spread like they warned us it would and all the hysteria. The only difference is between this and COVID is people were just like, no, we're not doing that again. And we ignored it. And miraculously, it just vanished. Now, I hope this makes people really angry. Seriously, I will never forgive these people. It makes me so angry that we were telling you this, that this was the case, and nobody believed us. And now we see people turning around saying, why didn't you warn me? We tried to warn you, and you called me a threat to democracy, and then you wiped me off social media. The people who told you they were the science, they lied about the science.
Well, there are a lot of Republican senators taking aim at this.
That's okay. I'm just going to do my job. And I'm going to be saving lives, and they're going to be lying. When I see people who scatter around misinformation and lies that can actually endanger the lives of people.
That is the worst human on the planet. That guy was lying through his teeth and saying everybody else. Turned out Joe Rogan was actually saving lives. And you, Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, and nearly every other media network, by the way, you are all full of it. This is why I don't trust government at all. This is the kind of stuff. The government rarely does anything well. Look at the DMV, the VA, whatever. I already didn't trust them with our health given the disaster of Obamacare. But this is the same government that has changed the standards of everything, forget COVID, from cholesterol to blood pressure, just to benefit big donors that happen to also produce the drugs used to control these things. This is why I say never trust the government. And if you think I'm a little bit far-fetched here, you need to open your eyes. Because they wanted to inject you with something largely untested, and the limited testing we did have on it, they hid the negative effects. It's beyond me. And the media who push this crap too, you're always focused on, what the experts say. That's what you always cite.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
The risk is extremely low of getting infected, of getting sick, or of transmitting it to anybody else. Full stop.
And they never had any data that ever said that ever. I don't ever want to hear that again. Now, we're the unvaccinated, we're the experts because we were right. But this goes with a lot in medicine now. I'm so tired of our medical community speaking with just broad impunity on everything with what we now know have come to be zero science behind it. And then this, again, goes beyond COVID. It's not just this. A lot of our medicine is corrupted. I'm tired of going to a doctor that, for instance, my old doctor, overweight, tells me that my diet of 40 eggs a day and 2 pounds of steak is going to kill me when my blood work is literally perfect. Oh, you should be on a statin preemptively. You mean the $19 billion a year industry that pays you to give me this stuff? No thanks. Also, if cholesterol is so bad, why does my liver produce it all day? And basically the entire makeup of my brain. Bet that any doctor prescribing statin won't be able to answer that one. I am so sick of the media on this, too. Not just on COVID, but on everything. Like a bunch of puppets just saying stuff. Or worse, they just say it because it's easy. It's unbelievable. They read something and they're like, I'm now a bunch of people who've never accomplished anything. Most, no actual knowledge themselves, just trashing people in the arena. Like Roosevelt said, the man in the arena. They have no personal, Rachel Maddow. You look like Mark Cuban's brother. Just no personal experience. They just talk about everything like they're some sort of expert. And then they have somebody else on who maybe wrote a paper about it, who also has never lived any of this stuff to talk about it. This is the expert. No, you should be so angry at these people. You should never forgive them. You should chase them to the end of the earth. You should never trust any of these people ever again. And you know what sucks? God forbid there's ever a real issue in the future. No one will listen. That's their fault. That's Fauci's fault. Statistically, you're actually safer not listening to the experts. One of the guys who was right all along, who helped create the vaccine technology behind the mRNA vaccines, Dr. Robert Malone. Sir, I wish it was nice to be right here, but unfortunately, a lot of people were harmed over that.
No, Carl, and I really appreciate your monologue. You made reference to a number of the things that I've been speaking about for so many years and have been ridiculed and deplatformed and everything else. But here we are, and the facts are coming out as the likes of you and I always knew they would. But right now, the topic is hot. And it's not just about Dr. Fauci, it's about the whole infrastructure, with the notable exception, it seems, of Bob Redfield, who maintained his integrity through all of this.
Yeah, right. And he was, ridiculed and pushed out of basically any medical communities at all, along with every other doctor that stood up against this. But despite privately this is the thing that gets me, sir. Privately texting with Fauci about their concerns regarding these COVID shots for pregnant women in April of 2021, Rochelle Walensky still pushed the vaccine. Watch this, sir.
Importantly, no safety concerns were observed for people vaccinated in the third trimester or safety concerns for their babies. As such, CDC recommends that pregnant people receive the COVID-19 vaccine.
This was after she knew.
Yeah. So, Carl, notice she did a little sleight of hand. She said third trimester, and then she said all pregnant women. Okay, so the data they have that Fauci is citing and she's citing is from the window in pregnancy when you're least likely to have a spontaneous abortion. And then she's broadening it and saying that there's no risks to any pregnant women. That is exactly the sleight of hand that they used in their analysis paper that they used to justify the universal pregnancy recommendation.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem, too, is like she doesn't have a pardon. I mean, we put her under oath, find out what she knew, when she knew it, and all these text messages. But, we have seen time and time again that these institutions have destroyed their own credibility. I mean, God forbid, like I said, let's say there's another actual pandemic with a real disease that kills people. No one's going to listen to them.
Well, this is the boy that cried wolf. And it's a rampant problem, and I'm not sure how we get around it. Secretary Kennedy, when he impaneled the ACIP that I was part of, was starting to allow us to get to the bottom of this, but we were blocked again and again and again by internal folks within CDC and, of course, within the existing HHS bureaucracy. Carl, we have a real problem. And of course, it's amplified by the recent decisions that are quite questionable about the mRNA vaccine for flu that was just made at the FDA.
Right.
Both FDA and CDC are got to be reworked right now.
Yeah, I mean, the left talks about abolishing ICE and all these things that are actually doing good things. We should abolish those and start from the ground up with people like yourself. Murthy versus Missouri, though, said the CDC pressures platforms to censor speech, raising concerns about COVID vaccines' impact on menstruation and pregnant women. We were locked out of Twitter. Sir, you were suspended from Twitter yourself, being like, hey, I invented this, and I don't think it should be used for this.
Yeah, so I try not to wear the victim badge, but it wasn't just Twitter. I'm still permanently banned from LinkedIn, which I used to use to generate business for my consulting shop. This is, a lot of people were hurt. There was an accusation from a doc in Florida that in Hawaii, that I was a mass murderer because of speaking out about my concerns regarding this product and the other things that happened with COVID. It was a form of madness, and I've spoken about that before regarding groupthink, regarding Matthias Desmet's work having to do with mass formation and the origins of totalitarianism. We got to see up close and personal how quickly things can go wrong when you have a small number of individuals with extraordinary power within the federal government that believe in a very dogmatic sense in what they think is the science, as opposed to a commitment to true science, which is always an open-ended investigation. Right. And kudos to Jay Bhattacharya also for really trying to change that culture.
Yeah, well, I hope we can change it if we ever, God forbid, ever need it again. Dr. Robert Malone, I wish it was under better circumstances that we get to say that you were right all along, sir, but thank you.
Thanks for saying it anyhow. I appreciate it.
All right. Coming up, Americans are fed up with flock cameras, and to be honest, me too. I'll tell you more about the slippery slope, about losing your rights later on in the show. But first, key primaries, 6 states today. All eyes are on Wisconsin in this bizarre, weird governor on the left, the Democrat socialist Francesca Hong, she's actually got a shot at running as the Democrat candidate for the state, maybe even winning the state. We're talking to you about that live in Wisconsin next.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
You're grounded.
You're gonna ground me? When you're 45 and you haven't even screened for colon cancer.
I'm busy. I promised your brother I'd fix the sink 3 years ago.
The Cologuard Plus test is non-invasive with no prep.
And it detects 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Now that's thinking inside the box.
False positive and negative results may occur. The Cologuard Plus test is not for those at high risk.
Another Tuesday, another primary day in 6 states across the country. Voters are heading to the polls in Minnesota, Vermont, Connecticut, my home state, Alabama, a special GOP primary for the Senate in South Carolina, and, of course, Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin's Democrat governor primary between Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong, who's probably going to win, and Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, which no one's ever heard of. Will Wisconsin be the next state to elect a communist? Let's bring in Andrew Kraft, who's live in Heartland, Wisconsin, at the headquarters for Republican Tom Tiffany, who is just endorsed by President Trump. What's up, Andrew?
Carl, good to be with you. Good evening here. We're in Heartland, Wisconsin. We're in Ruby Red, Waukesha County. Right now we're at this polling place. A lot of people coming out to cast their ballots after work. So you have the after work rush right now. We were in Madison, though, all week. I was talking to some of these Democratic primary voters, especially. That's one of those blue dots there in the Badger State. This is what one Hong supporter told me why he's voting for her. Listen.
I think Francesca Hong has been very consistent since she's been in the race in presenting herself in a way where her policy is consistent and you know what she's going to be supporting. Whereas Crowley, it's like he's kind of he has a more moderate stance, and it's hard to read what exactly his policy is going to be.
Yeah. Francesca Hong is kind of being described as far left, progressive, radical with some of her ideas, the tweets, things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that will make her job in November, if she wins tonight, harder against Tom Tiffany?
I think it's hard to say, because I think in Madison and Milwaukee, kind of the blue dots in this state, I think she'll do just fine.
So, Carl, speaking of Democrats, the byword today is unity. They're all going to get together tomorrow, depending on how tonight goes, and they're going to have a unified slate going into November, despite many of their divisions that have been well documented. Carl.
Andrew, appreciate it. It's a weird world out there. All right, for more on this, Chairman of the Tea Party Patriots Action, Jenny Beth Martin, and CEO and partner at McLaughlin Associates, John McLaughlin. All right, so this is, to me, is the craziest thing. Like, running for governor should not be the backup plan when your restaurant fails.
No, it should not be. And the person they just interviewed, the man on the street interview, he said, well, we know what we're getting with her. We know where she stands.
Sure do.
I just had an Uber driver with a man who escaped the Soviet Union. He's a little bit older than me, but he lived under hardcore communism. And I said, what do you think of the communism encroaching here in America? And he said, Americans have no idea. You have it so good, you have no idea what communism is like. And that man we just saw, you don't actually know what she's going to stand for. It's going to be like COVID lockdowns on steroids.
Yeah, 100%, but let's go polling-wise. She wins, Hong wins in Wisconsin. How does that look in the general? I mean, there's 0 people who take her seriously other than that guy we just heard from.
No, Wisconsin's a toss-up state. I mean, when I polled for President Trump, we won it by like 20,000 votes. When we lost in I'd hate to say we lost, but in Wisconsin in 2020, we only lost by 22,000 votes. And they proved that there was ballot fraud in Milwaukee County where people said they were permanently disabled when they weren't, but then you couldn't pull it out. So the governor, by the way, she's a turkey. They're going to decide she doesn't believe in Thanksgiving.
Or anything.
No. Right. No, she thinks Thanksgiving was a bad holiday because obviously we abused Native Americans with turkey. So today we find out if the Democrat Party in Wisconsin nominates a turkey. And if they do, I mean, Tom Tiffany, the Republican candidate, will be very happy, but it's always a toss-up state. And it's about 3 million voters, and you got to hope that the right ones come out, and it'll always be close. But it's an important state going into 2028.
Yeah. Well, here's another one. Top Obama ally, David Axelrod, believes that another progressives stand a better chance of getting elected if one or more of the unserious candidates loses. He actually wrote on X that El Said, the guy in Michigan, one state over, if Francesca Hong loses her bid to become the Democrat nominee in Wisconsin, he becomes more electable. I was like, that math don't math to me.
Well, what's interesting is he's not actually distancing himself from El Said. He wants El Said to be electable. So
yeah, with Hassan Piker at his side.
Yes, so he's okay with how radically left the Democrats are going. He just doesn't want it to look crazy. So he wants them to be able to get elected. And I think that all Americans should be concerned about that because the Democrat Party right now is abandoning its normal liberal philosophy and going full in Marxism, communism, big government socialism.
Yeah. And here's another one. All right, the state just north of me, Massachusetts, all right? They just signed, I don't know if we have VO of this, but here they are. Look at these women smiling and cackling in the background as she signs an order to be able to abort a baby until the day of birth. Now, regardless of what you think about abortion, this or that, pro, against, cheering for it is morally reprehensible. But 78% of Americans don't support this. And look at these clowns just clapping.
Right. And it's how extreme the Democrat Party is in reaction to Donald Trump Success. The more President Trump succeeds, that he's the working class president, the majority of voters agree with him on so many issues. Jenny Beth's been taking poll questions with us, whether it's voter ID or whether it's cutting taxes or whatever. But when you look at it, the big question that we had was when a Republican who's a free market capitalist is running against a Democrat who is a big government socialist, they're going to have big government run your life. The Republican, instead of losing the generic ballot for Congress, wins it by 13 points. 15-point turnaround. We win Hispanic voters. We win with women. We win with the moderates.
But you go back to, like, look at what Bill Clinton said when he was president. Roll this.
In talking about abortion being safe, legal, and rare, and by rare, I mean rare.
Our vision should be of an America where abortion is safe and legal, but rare.
But rare.
Today they were celebrating not being rare. Celebrating and cheering for abortion, celebrating and cheering for abortion all the way up to birth. And understand, Massachusetts had carve-outs for life of the mother and other carve-outs all the way to full term anyway. So this is just no restrictions whatsoever. It's extreme. It's out of touch with America.
All right. Jenny Beth, John, we appreciate both of you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Oof, man, I hate that topic. Coming up, we're consistently told more guns mean more crime, but what if the numbers tell a different story like they do every other time? We got 2-Way Tuesday coming up next.
You know, I think the biggest selling point for Newsmax is we're not doing the same boring, predictable news. You flip through the other channels, you got these high-paid hosts. They say the same thing every night. You know what they're going to say. It's a little different.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been a physician for 4 decades. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time, and Fatty 15 is one product that actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. A brilliant veterinarian realized that dolphins get disease much like humans. She looked at what predisposed to those problems, isolated the molecule, gave it to the animals, they didn't get the problem. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. Cell health equals physical health. That's why I take Fatty 15.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
We wanted transparency, but we couldn't find it. So we started Good Ranchers to reconnect the American family to the American farm. All of our meat is 100% born, raised, and harvested right here on American soil. But good sourcing is just the beginning. We go the extra mile to take stuff off your plate. Pre-trimmed cuts, easy thaw bags, fully cooked options.
Ooh, yeah, this is good.
And it's good for you. No antibiotics, no added hormones, no seed oils, no gluten, no funny business.
Our national security has been compromised.
INS targets could be released publicly.
You must assume they have your phone, assume they have everything.
I'm gonna find whoever was behind this, and I'm gonna kill them all. Move.
Can't find a ranch style with a view.
And a mom-in-law suite.
More realtor agents recommend Realtor.com. With their expert new search tool, just search it like you'd say it.
Room for mom.
And Reba. Make it real with Realtor.com.
I have a wife and 4 kids. If anything ever happens to me, I want them taken care of. That's why I have life insurance. Ethos. 10 minutes, 100% online. Done.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
The pain is gone. It's gone. I was wheeled in. I couldn't even move 5 feet without the wheelchair. I was in awful pain.
Are you able to get onto the bed?
I doubt it.
No?
We went through the whole intake interview, did the MRI, x-rays. I was awake through the surgery, came back to recovery. I was there for 10 minutes, and I got up and I walked.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
All right, it's 2A Tuesday, so let's do some gun stuff. I can still do that because it's my right hand. All right, if owning more guns automatically meant more gun violence, you would expect the states with the most guns in homes to have the highest gun homicide rates. But that's actually not what the numbers show. Montana, Wyoming, Alaska, and Idaho rank among the highest for gun ownership, yet rank among the lowest states with homicide rates? Oh, ain't that weird? So what does that say about the connection between guns and crime? Oh, that's right. Guns are not the problem, as always. Host of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company podcast, Cam Edwards, and Second Amendment columnist of Breitbart News, AWR Hawkins. Cam, that didn't stop a rumor, though, about a student who simply owned a gun that turned into a legal battle where they searched his car using the probable cause of him lawfully owning a firearm to search the car.
Yeah, no, listen, this is, the public school system that we're talking about here. And you've got an 18-year-old who is old enough to possess this firearm. Didn't, by the way, have a gun on campus, but that didn't really matter, right? It was, as you say, the rumor that this kid, this young adult, had a firearm in his vehicle that led to the school demanding to search his car. He said no. His dad said no, but none of that really mattered, Carl, and that's why this school district is now facing a lawsuit.
Yeah, and they absolutely should. AWR, this is actually awesome. A federal judge recently obviously ruled that the government cannot require registration for short-barreled rifles and suppressors and a few other things under the NFA because the NFA only existed as a tax. And when Congress eliminated that tax, they said, well, it's not constitutional anymore if it's not garnering revenue. So now there's talk about the potential for everyday Americans to own belt-fed machine guns, which would be awesome. You did a piece on this, actually.
Right. Yeah, I spoke, Representative Andrew Clyde is driving this coalition. And what they want, they're asking the DOJ basically to codify this with rulemaking so that after tomorrow's the last day the DOJ has to appeal. First thing they said is please don't appeal. Number two, they said codify this with rulemaking. And if they do that, then the Jensen v. ATF decision, which is the result of consolidated cases, that would mean that no law-abiding American ever has to register their suppressor, short-barrel rifle, or short-barrel shotgun again. And that would be wonderful. So we're right on the cusp of it, Carl. Tomorrow's a huge day, and let's hope the DOJ follows up by rulemaking, which makes this nationwide and not just for certain members of gun rights groups or for customers of Silencer Shop.
Yeah, exactly, which I am a customer of Silencer Shop. The ATF knows because they have all my information from all the registrations. Cam, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has been fighting the state fair gun ban in court since 2024. Now a 3-judge panel, the 15th Circuit Court of Appeals, has upheld the lower court ruling allowing the state fair, which is government, to ban guns on campus.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting case because the entity that runs the Texas State Fair is the State Fair Board, which is a private nonprofit. And Fair Park, where the State Fair is held, is owned by the city of Dallas.
Correct.
But the city of Dallas leases the property to this nonprofit. Texas law states that no government can issue a gun ban, right? Whether we're talking about a city, county, whatever. But the courts have said, well, it's not Dallas doing this. It's this private nonprofit that manages this city-owned property, so it's okay for them to ban guns at the state fair. The Attorney General, as you said, has been fighting this for a number of years now. I guess the next question is, does he appeal this decision? James Tallarico is going to try to make it a campaign issue, right? Ken Paxton wants guns at the fair. And will Paxton, rise to the occasion and actually defend our Second Amendment rights? Because this is a perfect opportunity to do so.
Yeah, real quick, AWR, we've seen this time and time again where the gun-free zones are the places that criminals go.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you what, I like what Cam said. We'll see if he appeals. I would like him to appeal because I would like Tallarico to have to come out in front of Texans opposing their ability to be armed for self-defense at the state fair. So I think it's a dream come true. If I were Paxton, I'd appeal it tonight before I go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Cam, AWR, appreciate both of you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, Abdul El Sayed's little Medicare for All plan is being contradicted by his own wife. Wait until you hear the rules at her private practice, not yours. We got that in Culture Clash next.
All across the nation, people can't stop talking about Carl Higbie and Frontline for the big news they need to know. Watch Carl Higbie Frontline tomorrow at 6 p.m. only on Newsmax.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, owner of Immuno 150, and I'm disgusted. Now, we do not sell on eBay, but 240 counterfeiters are offering counterfeit Immuno 150 on eBay. They copied our bottle label and even our website. Some of their junk has been known to contain talcum powder, baking flour, even ground up dirt. Zero nutritional value. None of it contains the 70 minerals that made Immuno 150 famous. These counterfeiters are after your credit card, and thousands of credit cards have already been hacked after they were used to purchase counterfeit Immuno 150. Now, we do sell on Amazon, but be careful, because some counterfeiters come on there too. The counterfeit websites look just exactly like our website. So to be safe, I suggest that you order Immuno 150 by scanning the QR code on the screen or by calling our toll-free number on the screen. Do this so you know you've got the original Immuno 150 with 70 plant-derived minerals instead of talcum powder or dirt. Thank you and God bless.
When Saturday rolls around, I don't want to jump through hoops to watch college football. Good thing DirecTV makes it easy to keep up with my favorite college teams. No hopping between apps or channels.
Stream college football without the hurdles on DirecTV.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere to fix that? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast, so strong, and so convenient. It's like putting the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires of your car on a single charge, or inflate a bag full of soccer balls at practice. Bullseye Pro is so advanced, it has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Plus, it can be 100% hands-free. You simply set the target pressure and walk away, keeping you out of harm's way. Bullseye Pro is lightweight, durable, and powerful enough to inflate this massive monster truck tire. Plus, it has 4 ultra-bright LED lights to safely inflate at night. Bullseye Pro comes with 3 custom air nozzles on board, so you can easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Forget driving to the gas station. Bullseye Pro is your anywhere, anytime inflation station. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system, all for the factory direct price of just $79.99. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. But to really inflate this offer, we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. You get it all. An incredible value for one low price. Call or go online to order now.
To order, call 1-800-493-2116 or go to getbullseyepro.com. So call 1-800-493-2116 or order online at getbullseyepro.com. Order now.
The social justice monster continues to eat itself, this time with Michigan Democrat Senate candidate Abdul Al-Sayed and his wife psychiatrist, Sarah Jakuka, or whatever her name is, does not take Medicare or any other insurance plan that forces her patients to pay out of pocket for her apparently so star-spangled awesome services that they receive from her. That she also appears to have scrubbed a portion of the frequently asked questions page on her website, making clear that she does not accept insurance. So this lady doesn't accept any Medicare or insurance, but isn't this your husband's platform?
So yes, Medicare for All is where we need to go. In the interim, we're going to do everything we can to start lowering prescription drug prices and health insurance premiums and prices. But we need to get to Medicare for All to guarantee every single person the health care that they need and deserve.
Just not with your wife's practice, because she's too good for Medicare, right? So this is always the thing with liberals. Maybe it's time to have a conversation at the kitchen table tonight and get on the same page. In for Kay today, Newsmax contributor and host of Amy Robbins Show, Amy Robbins, and host of Tony Katz Today, Tony Katz. All right, Tony, if it... like, you just can't make this stuff up.
No, not at all. And I hate utilizing the word hypocrisy. I think it's incredibly overused. People use it as a crutch. But if you listen to Abdul Rahman El Sayed, if you can't use his whole name, keep it out of your damn mouth and all that tough guy stuff. That's great. You've got one working arm, it seems, and I think you could still take him. The real story here is that he talks about being opposed to monopoly. He talks about being a capitalist. He talks about, and quotes Adam Smith, but he wants Medicare for all, which is government monopoly on health care. This is a standard operating procedure. Your point is the point that for the leftists who sees themselves at the top of the pecking order, for them, there are no rules. For everybody else, lots and lots and lots and lots of rules, for your own good.
Yeah, and this is another thing with the left. Their love for illegals, Amy. The DOJ is now thankfully suing New York, my state again of Connecticut, Vermont, and, over illegals, immigrants getting in-state tuition rates, but I can't get that. My kid can't get that. They said the law is clear. Colleges can't provide benefits to illegal aliens that aren't provided to American citizens.
Look, people voted for President Donald Trump because they were ready to see politicians have less talk and more action. And President Trump is simply enforcing a law that has been on the books for nearly 3 decades. It's just that no other president before him ever felt the need to prioritize federal enforcement of this law. So it really just shows that this is another way that President Trump is prioritizing American citizens over illegal immigrants. Who would have thought?
Noble concept, I know. But here's CNN shooting propaganda videos for a Haitian migrant who just got an ankle monitor in Ohio. Roll this.
Monsanto Mole, an immigrant from Haiti, collapsed to the ground in tears after leaving with an ankle monitor from an ICE check-in on Sunday. Mole has lived in the U.S. since 2023 and explains why he fled Haiti through an interpreter.
I was not feeling safe because I've been even chased by other people and hit me on the back of my head.
What really annoys me there, Tony, is that he's been here since 2023 and still had to use an interpreter.
Well, why in the world should you have to learn the language when our nation is supposed to cater to you, which is the argument that so many people make, and they have a point. You should want to be a part of the country if you are allowed here via temporary protected status, which really more and more seems like a jobs program more than it seems anything like actually providing help to people. If they are not required or not asked to actually take part in the American experience. But I must go back to the crying, and you see that video there. It reminded me of those videos in Gaza of Palestinians, and they're crying over their dead, and then magically it's like someone yells cut, and all of a sudden they wake up from the dead, and the white sheet comes off of them. I haven't seen crying like that so forced since Ocasio-Cortez at the border.
Yeah. Real quick, Amy, last 20 seconds to you on this. Amy?
Oh, hey, Carl. This is just absolutely insane. This isn't journalism. This is emotional blackmailing. And people are really tired of seeing through what CNN does when they are trying to package this as a human tragedy. Look, they were here under protected status. That program is winding down, and now enforcement has to be done. End of story.
And Geraldo, would you like to apologize now that he doesn't want people to go back there? He thinks it's a bad place. Anyway, appreciate both of you today.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, big concerns growing over the use of flock cameras and AI surveillance in law enforcement and what this could possibly mean for our Fourth Amendment rights. My thoughts on that next.
Today's AI capabilities can make your head spin, but for scammers, it's the ultimate tool. They're using AI to exploit tech gaps and slip past traditional security. PCmatic keeps your information private and devices safe with online security solutions developed in America to protect Americans. Built for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Secure 5 devices for just $50 for your first year. Get online protection at PCmatic.com.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. tax relief helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention, do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax relief helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at dropthepounds.com/slim.
So we've been hearing about these flock cameras, and town folk everywhere have not only been rising up against their city officials, but some folks are even cutting them down. They're holding hangout parties like this. This is hilarious. He's holding up a protest sign to block them with a stick. Obviously, some people are disabling them with high-powered lasers. Now, of course, I would never condone lawlessness like this, but it goes to show you how the public feels about what I think will become a lawsuit over the Fourth Amendment violations. And city councils are not only using them to spy on you, but they're also cutting off public debate at sanctioned meetings because they don't want to hear how bad a decision they made.
How many people are here to for public comment, specifically dealing with opposition to license plate readers, aka flock?
What? I believe there's a vast amount of different opinions. Many people will have different opinions on this.
You will not speak on flock tonight. One person designee. You can pick that person. You can pick that person to represent the interest.
Yeah, New York Times versus Sullivan. That's illegal. And if you haven't heard about these flock safety cameras, they're AI automated, and they call them license plate readers that are deployed all over a bunch of cities now, and sometimes even in rural areas. They continuously photograph every single passing vehicle's plate, their make, their model, any distinguishing features like a bumper sticker or even a dent, along with precise time and location. And they do this with people via facial recognition too, by the way. They store that data in searchable databases that police can look up without a warrant. They say it's for safety, but then why do they have them pointing at so many gun ranges in the middle of nowhere?
That may be the suspect or something.
Cameras at the gun range. This is the entrance to the gun range. So they got you coming in. They also got you going out. Today's Wednesday, so the gun range is closed until 2. So there's nobody here. Now, these are in the driveway to the gun range.
Yeah, how much crime is there at gun ranges? Not much. You see, my concern is like big government just spy. See, much like the cell phone location issue that the Supreme Court in June 29th, 2026, this year, Chattery versus the United States, in a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court held that accessing even limited geofencing location data from a third-party provider constitutes a Fourth Amendment search because individuals retain a reasonable expectation of privacy in the detailed record of their physical movements, requiring a warrant supported by probable cause. Look, I don't think this is much different, folks. Should simply existing in public subject you to surveillance? Surveillance that cops would otherwise need a warrant for not flock. They can cross-check your facial ID and track your car and build a habitual habit map to see where you go and intrude on your privacy. The misuse beyond the Fourth Amendment concerns are even worse. We have seen countless officers and officials access this data to stalk an ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, whatever, monitor a crush, look into non-official acts. The officers are getting in serious trouble for this. And what's funny is Flock seems to object to being filmed or even Googled themselves.
Sorry, is that rolling right now? You need to cut that off. No,
Film?
Can you put that out my face, please?
We're just going up for an interview to the Flock building.
No, sir. You can't do anything like that. You don't have point of contact or anything like that? No, sir.
You're telling me the Flock people told you to say no? Because they didn't say no to us.
That camera is catching me. Would you mind turning it off? I'm going to ask you to go, please. Can you please look at
We have something...
Oh, they don't like being videotaped, which is interesting because now they're even proposing Flock drone cameras that they, until challenged, they can just fly right over your house. Could you imagine putting up, I don't know, 20 grand worth of shrubs around your house to have some privacy, to do whatever you do in the privacy of your home? Lay out naked by the pool, I don't care. Or just have a conversation with your spouse. Oh yeah, these things listen to you too, okay? If they catch you like naked out back next to your pool in privacy behind your $20,000 shrubs as they fly over, guess what? That footage is now in a searchable database without a warrant needed to view it. What happens when they have cameras that can look or listen through walls? Will that be fine? Oh, we caught you talking to your wife about trying to evade taxes inside your own home. We actually passed that to the IRS. Good luck. No. Dude, this isn't Demolition Man. That movie predicted all of this, by the way. The Fourth Amendment prohibits a surveillance state. And then the justification from the pro-Flock crowd is insane. I've seen ads on social media saying things like, yay, we caught a pedo. Can we thank Flock cams for making America safe? And these are coming from regular conservative accounts. It must be a paid ad because they are popping up on known influencer accounts that are usually pro-Constitution. I've now unfollowed anytime I see one of these things. A lot of cops are like, oh, these things are great. Yeah, they're not. I realize they make your life easier, but I see them as violations of my Fourth Amendment right. Go patrol like the good old days. Now, I'm not willing to give up my rights because you think it makes your job easier. As Ben Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. I feel like this should be challenged sooner or later, but we have seen too many examples already of the wrong person getting pulled over, like this poor woman. She was yanked out of her car at gunpoint twice, and she wasn't even the person they were looking for. It was a mix-up because Flock cameras screwed up their data. There's a dozen other of these, and then they're like, oh, oops, sorry we traumatized your kid. This is the slippery slope to losing your rights, folks. They are going to push and push and push, just like COVID. They're going to get in your life, and there's nothing you can do about it if you let them normalize it. Do not let them. Before we go, from clotheslining players to gaslighting Americans, Degane Carrington is the poster child of overeducated and privileged libs. Next.
Wake Up America Weekend.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Lauder.
And I'm Kenzie Beach.
It's a Wake Up Weekend with Kyle and Kenzie.
We're here to help kickstart your weekend.
Grab your coffee and join us at 7 a.m. only on Newsmax.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine whose lives have been completely destroyed. Family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
Thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys experience ED. Guys, connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED, then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
People always ask me how I stay ready, how I stay consistent, how I lock in when it actually counts, again and again. It's the work you do before anyone's watching. They think I must be on something. Maybe. It's pure, it's potent, it's all me. Something that never lets me down. Armra. I'm on it.
Case after case, unsolved. They don't care about us. I kill them all. Let these crackers know their consequences. Crackers? But you never heard of that? No. Saltine cracker, no flavor, white man. And square. Now this is getting good. What are you? Chocolate, delicious, like a Tootsie Roll, right?
By any means. Only in theaters September 4th.
Well, the WNBA chief clothesliner, Dejandy Carrington, or whatever her name is gaslighting America. All right, saying we misunderstood her tweet of her playing the race card after she was ejected for decking Sophie Cunningham. Now, Carrington posted on X, "I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege. Do I research that one on you? I actually went to school to educate myself on the exact, well, that was a waste. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. You have 2 degrees from Stanford, which shows that the university is useless. One in psychology and the other one in African American studies. And that makes you an expert. Like, why is it that, like, all these black people lecture white people about what white privilege is, but white people don't have any context to judge any black people on any of their behavior? You are the definition of privilege. You went to a private school. You're overeducated. You went to Stanford. Your dad played in the NFL, and now you're playing the race guard for WNBA.
She posted white privilege. And then you posted it. Like, I mean, what are you talking about?
We read it wrong, Rob.
I guess we read it wrong.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was.
Us fools.
Good show, Carl. Good to see you. All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.